Hi, I'm Anat Fraenkel. I'm the lead for our GenAI strategy and transformation here at Caylent.
And I'm Ryan Gross. I lead the data and AI delivery teams at Caylent. So Anat, can you tell me, just to ground this conversation, we're talking about the evolution of chatbots. What do we mean when we say a chatbot?
Yeah, so a chatbot is really the ability to have a conversation or really ask a computer questions. So you can think of Alexa or Google, right? I want to ask a question. What are the nearest restaurants for sushi near me? I want to ask it a question. It can give responses based on certain really structured answers that it knows to give. Obviously, with ChatGPT launching at the end of 2022, we've really seen an evolution of that. The answers have gotten more sophisticated. We have models trained on very, very large sets of data that not only give me an intelligent answer, but I can also converse back and forth with a little bit with some follow-up questions. We've seen a lot of clients trying to use this on their HR policy documents, different sort of knowledge bases, but there's been quite a bit of limitations in that. Ryan, can you tell me a little bit about the limitations we've seen?
Yeah, so with ChatGPT and what I'll call like generative AI 1.0, you have a system that was trained on tons and tons of information, and so it can answer questions about so many different things. But it was not trained on private information held by companies or individuals. And so while it may be able to mimic that in some cases, it's not really answering those questions in the right way. So you heard people talking about hallucinations all the time of the model I asked it a question about something in my document and it answered about some other person that I've never heard of before. How did that happen? And the reason is that you didn't provide it with any context. Like you didn't tell it what you want to ground the answer in. And so then that the 1.5 version of generative AI was you start to take these vectors created via embedding models over your corporate knowledge. You keep that separate from the chatbot itself, right? You put it in a vector database. And then when you're asking that question, you look up the information you want to ground the answer in, and you tell ChatGPT or, at this point, the Amazon Bedrock service had launched. You tell it, use this information to ground your answer. Now answer this question. And all of a sudden, you were able to have so much more control over what the model was going to say. Now, the big thing, and even really the difference between that and what we saw in a very limited way with Alexa, is it still couldn't really do things for you. It just gives you answers to questions where on the back end, there could be lots of services you might want it to connect into and to actions for it to take. And so do you want to talk through some of how could you build a more advanced system there? Or what have we really been seeing with clients, I guess, in building a more advanced system that not only answers questions, but also does some other things, or maybe answers more complex questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really taking this human capability, Ryan, and saying, let me solve a problem for you. And so really that evolution of what I know we've been calling GenAI 2.0, if you will, is using that human capability. So what's the first thing I have to do? I have to break the problem into steps. Just like we as humans do a little bit self-consciously, right? And we say to ourselves, okay, first I have to go gather information, then I have to synthesize that information, then I'm gonna go write a document, right? Or write the answer to the question. So what we've seen clients start doing is taking this and having the LLM, breaking it in and saying, hey, here's a set of tools or agents, if you will, that you can use to go take the steps. Here are the steps, or here, figure out the steps. And then it breaks those into components and does each one of those at the same time, picking the tool that it wants to use to solve that problem, and then doing that in a sequence. We move into an evolution where perhaps the systems are making the decisions, but even more importantly, that human is in the loop. They have exactly what they need, and now they've been able to do their job more efficiently.
Yeah, exactly. And this, ultimately, you've seen Amazon with the Bedrock service start to really innovate in this space and make it so that it's much, much easier today. You now have the ability to build the end-to-end flows through those systems where you have intelligence at each step. You have the ability to have the system have memory so that I could have a chat and then come back a month later and the model will have the context of your chat from last month and be able to pull up the right answer with that information as well. And then finally, to be able to trace all of that through. This is one of the key complexities that gets added in a generative AI agent chatbot. This new 2.0 system is going to make a whole bunch of calls, and it's non-deterministic which services it's going to call and what the results are going to be. And so being able to understand what's actually happened in production is completely essential to being able to actually launch one of these without being terrified that it's going to do something really wrong. And so that last component there of the tracing and then calls out into your other infrastructure is that the last gap that's really being closed by the Bedrock team now. So really excited for that next wave of evolution because of systems like this that allow organizations to start now tackling much more complex problems in a much more standardized and scalable way on the cloud.
I think another new feature of Bedrock is their guardrails feature, which is really helping you evaluate and test the output coming out from your LLMs. And in fact, that's really an important part. It's good to know that your models are actually the least durable part of your architecture. They're changing constantly and getting upgraded, and at different points, different models are better, and or some models are better for some tasks than others. And so I think the other feature, and how Bedrock was originally from its inception design was to be a flexible, to provide you the flexibility to pick the model that is best for you at some point in time or for some task. And so I think that's a really important part to remember about Bedrock and sort of what you get when you're picking up the AWS infrastructure. But with that said, if you find yourself trying to figure out if a chatbot is right for your business and or trying to solve some of these more complex problems with GenAI, we'd love to help you. We're an AWS GenAI competency partner, and you can reach us at Caylent.com, and we'd love to take a call with you.